I need this for my email as soon as possible.
Yeah. I'm like imagining this workflow where like you're listening to your emails with some extra commentary.
There's something new being born there that never existed before.
OpenAI is starting to fall behind a little bit. Hey, welcome to the Next Wave podcast. I'm Matt Wolf. I'm here with Nathan Lands. And today we're going to discuss a lot of the latest stuff to come out of the AI world. Things from Anthropic and OpenAI and HubSpot and all of these big players that are building stuff in the AI space right now. But we're not just going to talk about the news. We're going to talk about what the heck do we actually do with this stuff? You know, there's a lot of discussion going on in the AI world around that's a really, really cool thing. But how would I actually use that in my life? Well, we're going to talk about that. And some really cool stuff has come out from Anthropic and OpenAI lately. And we're going to give you our thoughts on where this might be going and how you can actually integrate this and implement it in your business.
So this week, I think the most exciting thing that I saw that's actually useful is the new Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Mm-hmm. You know, I've been a big believer in OpenAI, and even though people were saying, hey, Claude's better at writing, I'm like, but still, you know, with OpenAI and ChatGPT, I have my custom instructions, and it knows more about me and has more context about me. Well, now with the new Claude, not only is it better than ChatGPT, but also they've added this new thing called projects. And so projects is basically like custom instructions, but better. For example, like with my newsletter, I created a project called the Lore newsletter. Mm-hmm. And then I gave it all these notes. So I said, like, here's kind of like my writing style. Here are like two of my favorite newsletters and the kind of writing style that I've learned from. Here are my previous issues of the newsletter and also the kind of general template I use to lay out my newsletter every week. And that has made the Claude such a better editor than before. Like before, it had no context, like who's Nathan or like what is he like or what's the newsletter. And now you don't have to do any of that. Like it just knows all of it. And so it seems like, you know, yeah, for a newsletter, it's a great use case, but it feels like this is going to be where companies can really start to find value with AI. Because my understanding too is you can actually share the projects, right? So you can make this for any kind of project and feed it all the context that's relevant for that project. And now everybody who's involved in that project, when they go into the AI, it's already got everything set up. So it knows like what you're trying to accomplish. So
yeah, honestly, I haven't played with the projects feature yet. You know, at the time of this recording, I've actually been traveling and I just got home and I haven't played with that yet. But they also rolled out a feature called artifacts where it puts this like sidebar inside of Claude. So on the left of your screen, you type your prompts and it looks just like Claude's always looked. But then on the right, whatever the sort of output you're looking for will show up on the right. So one of the very first things that I tested with that was I wanted to see if I can have it write a game for me and actually test the game straight in Claude without ever leaving the website. And it worked. I asked it, I made a very, very simple game. I said, hey, make me a tic-tac-toe game and that I can play against the computer. And with a single prompt, it generated that game and then it worked first try. I mean, the computer actually sucked at tic-tac-toe. Like the logic of where it should place the thing wasn't there yet, but I would put my X's down and it would put an O down and I'd put an X down and it put O down and I beat it every single time because the AI that it generated wasn't very smart for the game, but it was all playable right inside of Claude. I didn't even need to copy the code, paste it into a text document, open it as like a HTML file. Didn't need to do any of that. It just loaded up in this new artifact sidebar and I was able to test it out. And I just thought that was like so cool. You can test the code without ever leaving the website. And then if something doesn't work with it, you just go to the left side of your screen and say, hey, this didn't work, fix it. And it will rework the code and show it to you again in the right sidebar. And that was really, really cool. But I haven't actually played with the projects yet. I just know that, you know, I have some custom GPTs that I made over in ChatGPT where I mostly use them for like duplicatable processes that I find myself doing over and over again, kind of like you mentioned for your newsletter. And one of the ways that I was using the custom GPT was I was taking all of the links from one of my YouTube videos, right? I usually have like 20 tabs open and I'm like, here's this thing, and then here's this thing, and then here's this thing. And then I take all of the URLs from those tabs, I would plug them over into ChatGPT in a custom GPT that I made. And I said, you know, create a resource list for me. And it would give every single URL a sort of title, a URL, title, URL. And it used to work really, really good. When GPT 4.0 came out, it actually broke that custom GPT. It stopped working for me. So I'm like, when you mentioned this just now, that Claude has this projects, and it's kind of similar to like a system prompt or almost like a custom GPT. I'm like, well, that sort of eliminated one of the use cases I used to go to Chat GPT for.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is like the first time I feel like I can actually switch over. But you're talking about the artifacts thing. So another thing with projects is apparently you can share the artifacts. I'm imagining like two teenagers who are like coding on a project together. Like how cool that's going to be now, where they literally can go into the AI and say, "Hey, we want to make this little game together, or this little website or whatever." And you can talk to the AI, and you can actually see the output. You can see the output of the code, and go back and forth on that together. There's something new being born there that never existed before, like in terms of collaboration on projects.
I wonder if you can make like a multiplayer game, right? Like I make a game, like just for the most basic possible example, the tic-tac-toe game I made, I log in and playing the game against you know, over in Japan, right? Like that would be kind of crazy. I don't know if it's there yet, right? You're probably just seeing like the front-facing code. You're probably not seeing my input, but that would be cool if we could figure out how to like make multiplayer games in there where you log in, you see like the move that I made, and then you make your move, and then I see the move you made, and we can go back and forth and almost like create a multiplayer game inside of the artifacts, but with the sort of team group feature that's there.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now it's mainly JavaScript they're outputting. I could be wrong, but I think a lot of the stuff I've seen at least is JavaScript. So
yeah, I believe so.
You'd probably want to have some kind of back end, but like, whether it's Microsoft or one of these guys, or Anthropic, I think they're funded partially by Amazon. So in theory, they could just partner with AWS, right? And you could have something on the back end where it rolls up a server. Usually with games, net code is one of like the kind of challenging things engineering wise. But my understanding is there's a few best practices for that now. So I don't see why AI couldn't learn how netcode works and then just roll up a server for a game. And then, now you do have a multiplayer game. So I don't think that's currently possible, but that feels like something that's probably 6 months away, maybe 12 months.
Yeah. Anthropic's backed by Google too. So they have AWS and Google Cloud, potentially at their disposal.
Right.
I mean, I think that'll be really interesting. I need to play with that projects feature a little more. As far as the project features go, I mean, what are some of the like super exciting use cases that we can think of for using that projects feature? Because, again, like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, like this is really, really cool. All right, now how do I use this in my business? How do I use this in my daily life for productivity? How do I actually like integrate this new technology? I'm curious your thoughts there.
One, on a personal side, I recently saw a tweet from Greg Eisenberg talking about micro weddings and talking about how that's like a new thing where people don't want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a wedding. They want to have like 10 to 20 friends, but he talks about how that's a huge trend and it's so hard to like manage putting together a wedding. And obviously, I just recently got married. We had a relatively small wedding, very expensive though, and the meetings with the staff were so long. I was sitting there thinking, God, now that there's this Claude, with the projects, I'm like, could have made a project for the wedding. I could have told it like, here's the kind of wedding we're wanting to have. Help us organize everything, and here's like some reference images and stuff. And sure, it couldn't have done everything, but I think it could have helped. Basically been like the wedding organizer for sure.
I wonder how close it is to like, Anthropic's got like visual capabilities as well, right? You can upload a photo and then it can see what's in the photo and you can ask questions about that photo. I wonder, can Claude, and this is something I don't know, maybe you do, but if you don't, that's okay. Can Claude actually like see what it built over in that right side, the artifact sidebar, right? Because if it can, how close is Claude to being like what we saw from Devin, right? Write me this game, and then it writes the game pops up in the right sidebar, it tests the game itself to see if the game is functioning the way that specific game should, and if it's not, send that the image or the response or the error report or whatever back to the code on the left sidebar, fix it, iterate it, and then present it again on the right sidebar. Like, it feels to me like this is one step closer to that sort of agentic thing that everybody was looking for, especially for code. I mean, right now with Anthropic, the thing that everybody is sort of blown away by is how good it is at writing code. It's gotten like so much better than what GPT-4 can do at writing code in a single prompt usually. So I'm just wondering, that to me feels like where they're going with all of this is like that sort of agentic, it can see what the output was, determine if the output was the output we were looking for. If it is, cool. If not, throw it back into the chat and try again,
Yeah, I mean, they definitely should go there. My understanding is currently it doesn't do that. I could be wrong, but I think right now, Artifacts is basically like a UX experiment or UI experiment for them, basically. It's actually one of the first things they've invented, as far as I know, that ChatGPT didn't have first.
Yeah.
Because every other feature they've created was basically a copy of ChatGPT's features so far.
Right.
And Artifacts is the first thing. It's like, oh, that's new. That's a really cool thing. You just see the output. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, especially if it's JavaScript, HTML, CSS. There should be no barrier to being able to just present that on the same screen.
Yeah, but I think that is where it's going. Like whether it's Claude doing it or someone else, and I think ChatGPT is coming. They're not just gonna lose this fight. They're gonna roll out some amazing stuff too. But yeah, that's something I noticed a lot of engineers are talking about online. Is like people are saying, like, in terms of like refactoring was a big thing I heard. They're like, oh my god, like you can go in and like all your code that's messy, you can just copy and paste in all of it, and it just like makes it all like tidy and removes all the unnecessary stuff or anything that's redundant or inefficient. It gives you code that's like way better, runs better, cleaner, easier to read, and nothing breaks. It's like before, apparently, like when you would do that, it would like make it cleaner, but sometimes that would break things. Right. And I'm hearing a lot less people saying, oh, it breaks things now. It seems like it's way better. Like it understands what it's doing. And yeah, it can clean up your code and it doesn't break anything. And that's that's huge. Like when you're coding, like you can that's one of the hardest things about engineering is the projects I've worked on is like when you go into something, and especially if there's other people involved, to go and look at somebody else's code and understand what's going on.
Right.
it's so hard because like they've been sitting there for like sometimes even like 24 hours coding on something, and it just it makes sense in their head, and but then when somebody else looks at it, it's like, how is all this stuff interconnected, and what the hell is this, and what's that, and so yeah, I think that's a big thing that is going to actually be really useful for companies now, is that like, yeah, your code will be cleaner, run better.
Hey, real quick, you and I both know how quickly AI is evolving. So if you're tired of constantly playing catch up in the AI space, I've got just the solution for you. HubSpot's AI for Business Builders Guide is a 4-step resource that covers prompt engineering, API integration, fine-tuning, and product development. If you want to get a grip on the tech, boost performance, and get the most out of your AI investment, this guide will be your saving grace. They figured out a way to make this info easy for non-techie folks to understand, and they're giving it away for free. Read the guide, get your AI questions sorted, and kick off the AI journey in your business today. Click the link in the description below, and now back to the show.
I think one of the things that I'm sort of feeling lately is that OpenAI is starting to fall behind a little bit. And again, we've talked about this plenty of times on the podcast. We have no idea what OpenAI is doing behind the scenes, right? They're fairly secretive. Most of the stuff that they've announced and shown off, people didn't see that coming because they don't like to show it off until it's ready to show off. But lately, it's starting to feel like companies like Anthropic are passing them in a lot of areas. And other examples outside of the large language model is the video stuff. We actually kind of talked about this on a different episode, but you've got Sora, which they announced seemingly to overshadow Google, right? Like when Sora was announced, I think it was the same week that Google announced Gemini 1.5 or whatever. It was a really big leap for Google with like 1 million token context window. Well, that week, OpenAI went and showed off Sora, and nobody was talking about Gemini 1.5 once they saw Sora. Sora was all anybody in the AI world was talking about or looking at or caring about, right? Well, here we are several months later. We still don't have Sora access, but now we've got the Luma AI video available. We've got Runway Gen 3, which is about to be available, most likely before Sora. We don't have it yet, but most likely before Sora. And then you've got the demo that they did for the sort of advanced audio assistant, I think is what they call it, right? They did that demo. Once again, I feel like they timed that demo to sort of slap Google, right? Like Google had their Google AI I/O event the same week. Like Google I/O started on Tuesday. Well, what did OpenAI do? Monday, we're announcing an event where we're going to make a big announcement, right? They made this big announcement on Monday, which kind of took some of the flair away from the Google I/O event. Here we are a month later. We still don't have it. And they just made an announcement that, it's getting delayed. We're pushing it out. It's not going to be rolled out. I mean, some people seem to be getting it, but for the most part, they're telling us we're not going to get it till fall now. And it's like, they're making all of these big announcements with the intention of sort of overshadowing Google, but then they're not actually shipping anymore. And I don't think it's a good look for OpenAI, in my opinion. And it also kind of feels like it's giving a lot of these other companies an opportunity to catch up and pass them. Like Claude 3.5 is beating OpenAI in all of the LLM benchmarks right now. Like companies are starting to pass them up.
I agree that it's not a good look, but I'm still convinced that behind the scenes they're pretty far ahead. And like there's starting to be some evidence of that. It's like the stuff with Sora, even though they did a demo and it's not out yet. But the video that came out, I think it was yesterday, the Toys R Us commercial.
Yeah.
Have you seen that yet?
I haven't watched it yet, but I saw the news.
That's generated with Sora.
Yeah, I heard that.
So Sora, there are deals going on behind the scenes where the technology is being used.
Right.
I think with Sora, it's probably just so expensive. They're like, yeah, we can't just roll this out.
Yeah.
Everyone is like people are going to pay like hundreds of dollars to use it. Like people are, they're not going to do that. Should we show the Sora video, or is that?
I mean, the video's not copyright. I know that.
That part's so cool.
Interesting. Yeah. The funny thing is, I didn't even know that Toys R Us was like back. It's like,
yeah,
this
they're
was
back,
their,
and they're back with Sora.
yeah, like this was their introduction to go like, hey, look, we're here again.
Yeah. And so, I thought that commercial was pretty cool. Like is it perfect? No, but like that's the worst it's ever going to get.
Right.
And you can see that they're able to accomplish things in that commercial that probably would have, traditionally cost a lot more, probably to the point where they never would have made that kind of commercial.
Right.
It's just like you're almost making like a short film at that point. I think that behind the scenes that they're still doing quite well. I agree they've kind of slipped up in terms of how they presented things. I don't think it's good. Like I highly prefer how Claude's doing it, where like they talk about something and then it's just out and hey, try it. Like, like the old Steve Jobs style. Like I think that's way better personally. But I still think, GPT-5 is coming and it's probably way better than Claude.
Yeah.
It's like, so right now Claude's better for the moment, but yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. The Toys R Us video is interesting to me because I'm wondering what sort of reception it's going to get. Like if it starts, I don't know if that's airing on TV already right now, or if it's, just kind of circulating on the internet, but almost every scenario where AI was used in this kind of thing, there was massive negative backlash, right? Like,
oh, there is online right now.
Oh,
there is. Yeah. For this, it's like really, people are quite hateful. Like, screw, Toys R Us.
Screw
They should
Macy's.
stay dead and all this kind of stuff. It's like horrible stuff.
I don't get it. I don't quite understand it. I guess the argument is like, well, why didn't you just hire real people, real visual effects artists to go make that? You would have employed more people if you did. But I mean, they're a company that went bankrupt, so like they're probably looking to cut some costs in some places.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just remember like when there was that Disney Plus show, the Secret Invasion, and parts of the intro were done with AI, and like people were boycotting watching that show because the intro was made with AI, right? And like there was like a magazine post where there was like a clock. I don't remember exactly what the ad was for, but there was like an ad where like the clock in the background, people are like, wait a second, the numbers on the clock look weird. That image is AI, boycott this company. They use AI for their images. I don't understand that. Like you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You're like, okay, because they use this one ad, the product that they're offering is no, like, I don't know. It's a weird take to me that people are like that passionate about like, this company is saving costs by using AI, therefore screw that company. But that seems to be the sentiment whenever this kind of stuff comes out. I don't know if that's like the vocal minority or if that's how most people feel. I kind of get the impression there's like this vocal minority of AI haters. Most of the world is either like AI is cool or I really don't care one way or the other. But then there's this vocal minority of people that tend to speak the loudest on the internet.
Yeah, I think it's the vocal minority, but it will be interesting to see long term. Like it's definitely gonna be like one of the biggest transitions in human history, at least in our lives, right? Where things are gonna radically change, and a lot of it's gonna be good, and there's gonna be a lot of there's gonna be some bad and complicated stuff too, like we talked about before, right? It's I think we should accelerate, but also at the same time, it's like but also like care about people, because it's like some people are gonna lose their jobs, So we'll see how that works long term. I think there will be some backlash, but at some point, like you get these like the new show from Disney. I already forgot the name of it, the new Star Wars show. It's horrible. Like it's all the commercial and they're like chanting the power of one and all. It's like it looks like
me and my wife have actually watched them all. My wife and I have actually watched them all, and I know we're starting off on a tangent here. No, I think the show's horrible, but it's almost like I'm watching it now to watch this train wreck in slow motion.
There was an interview with the musician will.i.am, the guy who used to be in the Black Eyed Peas, and he said that the AI video stuff he's seen, he feels like it is going to take power away from Hollywood, and it's going to give it back to individual creators for them to create new things. And he thinks that's going to be a more beautiful world where like people can
bring it on,
create the kind of stuff they want to see,
Yeah.
And so I am hoping like technology gets way better, and then Hollywood's like has to like produce better films with humans in it and stuff that humans actually want to see. And then there'll be a whole other category, like you said, probably a niche of where people can use AI to make stuff that's personalized for them, what they want to interact with. So
yeah, it's interesting. I definitely see the arguments, right? Like I see the arguments of like, okay, this is taking away the need to hire visual effects artists and things like that. But I also think that the visual effects artists that learn to like leverage a lot of these AI tools are going to be much better at their craft, using all the tools that are at their disposal, right? Why let yourself get left behind because you're going to boycott a certain technology? Well, your competitors probably aren't going to boycott that same technology. Like it's ridiculous, but I do understand it's change. People are scared of change, but I think those that leverage it as another tool in their toolbox will only get better at their craft.
Yeah, one of the other interesting things that came out this week was 11 Labs, the AI voice company. They rolled out this reader app. So basically, you can feed it any document, and then you can use an AI voice to read it to you. So like if there was a book that didn't have an audio version of the book, you could have it read it to you. Or if there's a presentation, I guess in theory, a presentation or any kind of PDF or anything like that, you could feed it to it and have it read it to you. So like it feels like that's going to be really powerful for people. Like it feels like it moves us closer and closer to like not having to be on your computer all the time, right? Where you'll be able to go off and live your life and do work at the same time. Like you can be going for a walk and staying healthy while hearing the presentation that your boss just sent to you or whatever. Like, I don't have time to like look at that this moment, but like, hey, let's just send that to 11 Labs and have it read it to me while I'm like going off and enjoying my life for a little bit.
Yeah. No, that to me will be really interesting because it kind of makes it so like everything can be an audiobook, right? Like articles you read online, they can be an audiobook. Like you mentioned, like the memos from a meeting that you don't really feel like reading, turn it into an audiobook, go for a walk and listen to the summary of the meeting, right? Like anything can be an audiobook or a podcast that you can listen to and multitask. I need to run to the store real quick. I'll listen to the audio of this meeting that was generated while I'm there, or I'll listen to this blog post that I came across on the way to the store real quick.
I told Amar, who's working over there, I was like, I need this for my email as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And then when it gets to the point where then you're able to actually like talk back to it and tell it how to like craft a response back. I mean, we're probably like 6 months away from all this, which is awesome.
Do they have an API for that feature? I think 11 Labs has a pretty robust API. So if they don't, I bet they will soon. And that sort of gives me ideas of like, using something like Zapier or make.com that you can start tying these tools together. And every time an email comes in, automatically send it over to the 11 Labs API, make an audio version of it, and then queue it up in my podcast player, right? And then when you go anywhere, you just open up your podcast player and listen to all the emails that have come in the last couple hours, Well, and what you could do too, and I'm just like, I'm sort of totally nerding out right now, but like, I like to make workflows with Zapier and make.com. And I'm like imagining this workflow where like an email comes in, it automatically sends it to the Anthropic API, has Anthropic add its own commentary to the email for you, and then sends that over to 11 Labs, makes a podcast for you. And now it's like you're listening to your emails with some extra commentary. Like you could tell Anthropic, make me some jokes about this email, make me some jokes about this contract. So as you're listening to the contract, it adds in a little bit of like entertainment factors. So you're more like interested in reading it, like every once in a while I'll laugh at something that's said in this contract. So you could be listening to it and they're like laughing at the contract as they're reading it to you. Like that kind of stuff I could actually see myself doing just to like help me get through more of the content I'm trying to get through.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of the stuff we're talking about with the email, though, a lot of that's, maybe some of it could be doable with Zapier and other things right now. I'm not sure what to go play with it and see, but if not, it's going to be available soon. But one thing you can actually use like right now, which I've been finding really useful is, and this is, I'm not saying it because Dharmesh is, the co-founder of HubSpot, but Dharmesh, the co-founder of HubSpot, the CTO, launched this thing called agent.ai. And my understanding is he's building different agents for different business use cases. I'm not sure if that's going to get rolled up into HubSpot products or what. Mm-hmm. But what he has right now that you can use without even signing up is this thing where you can forward an email to agent@agent.ai. Mm-hmm. And then it basically connects it to an LLM, and you can ask it things. Like you can ask it a question about the email, or you can ask it, the thing I've been finding very useful is summarize this email.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't have to go anywhere else or anything. I literally just, forward it to agent@agent.ai and say, hey, this email that's like 6 paragraphs, summarize it into like 3 bullet points.
And you're just writing that in the message that you send. So you're like forwarding it, yes. And then in the message that above the forwarded message, you're asking a question or whatever.
That's all you do. And you get a response back in about 30 seconds. Mine was like 20 to 30 seconds every time I tried it. And it's great. It's like, it's, I'm not sure what, they're using behind the scenes. Maybe they're using Claude or, whatever. But the responses are good. Like the summaries are pretty similar to what you'd get from putting it into Claude. Of course, you could go copy and paste and do all that. But for a lot of people who don't know how to do all that, or, who are not as fast at doing that as I might be, like, it's super useful, and you can use it like right now. You just like forward the email. So anyone listening, I suggest, if you haven't tried it, you've got emails that are like super long, I suggest like just try it out. Like forward an email to agent at agent.ai and just say, hey, summarize this email. It's pretty magical.
Yeah. And so there's a lot there to think about. We talked about a lot of the new tools that are coming out. We talked a lot about the use cases that you might be able to use them for. Even talked a little bit about the future implications of where some of these tools might go. I think this has been a really fun, fascinating discussion. And if you enjoyed this discussion, make sure you like this if you're watching it on YouTube, and subscribe wherever you're listening / watching this. If you're watching it on YouTube, subscribe to us there. If you're listening to it on a podcast platform, subscribe to us there as well. We really appreciate it. It helps get this show more reach in front of more people. We can't thank you enough for tuning in and nerding out around AI with us. We really appreciate you. We'll see you in the next one.